Surely everyone has seen the costumes of the plague doctors: glazed eyes, beaks, long cloaks. The image of the guys is tightly associated with something grim and harsh, but who they really are. Today we will live one day in the life of the plague doctors and realize that they were actually engaged in a very good deed. Meet our plague doctors, Billy Foster. It's 1650 and he lives in Birmingham. There is a plague raging across the continent and Billy's job is to deal with it. And before we get to the details, here is a little more background. Plague is a terrible disease with an almost 95% mortality rate. At first a person feels pain and inflammation in the lymph nodes, then the nodes enlarge and the patient begins to have a fever. Friends, before watching please subscribe to the channel. For you it's a couple of clicks, but for us it's a huge support and motivation to keep going. Within a period of 2 to 12 days, the infected person may also experience plague pneumonia, and it's very likely to die. Inflamed lymph nodes look specific, and such a tumor is called a bubo. It is on this basis that in various sources the medieval plague is most often referred to as bubonic. As you probably know, the surest way to contract the plague is through a rat bite, but there is another in many ways more deadly vector: fleas. They are small, they jump and bite people, and worst of all, they carry plague perfectly. You can get infected either by human contact or by airborne droplets. Let's move on to the Billy's costumes. On his head is a helmet, which is actually a prototype gas mask. It completely covers his head and even his eyes, protecting them with glazed eyepieces. The beak has a useful lot. First, strongly smelling herbs and other medicine were thrown into the beak. Doctors worked with not particularly pleasant smelling patients, and sometimes even with corpses where it was necessary not to faint from the smell. Also, the part of the beak in contact with the nose was covered with a sponge with incense, and the doctor himself constantly chewed garlic. The cloak was to protect the doctor's body. Billy, like all members of his profession, didn't want to touch his patients. Gloves, long fishing boots and a cane helped. It was used to examine patients, cauterize wounds and, if necessary, to fire off especially violent ones. In addition, Billy smeared grease and wax on clothing. There were several varieties of plague doctors. The first, you might call them scavengers. One of their most frequent orders was the removal and burial of corpses. Deeply religious nobles were oblivious and often local wards from Birmingham would summon doctors to retrieve and remove their dead. And in the meantime, Billy could take anything from their homes. The second category of doctors to which our Billy belongs are orderlies. Such doctors were engaged in the removal of corpses, but at the same time tried to receive patients. The most common method of treatment is to open an inflamed lymph node with a special scalpel and then cauterize it. Some fed the sick to spiders, believing that they absorbed bad things. Some made them sniff horse droppings to kill the plague with the stench. The particularly clever ones put jars, applied frogs and treated with leeches. The third and smallest category of plague doctors were seers. These guys were very educated people who tried to apply their genius to solve their problem. For example, the lone doctor was the famous Nostradamus. Prediction was his hobby, and in fact he was a very gifted doctor. For his contribution to the plague, the Parliament of a region of France even gave Nostradamus a lifetime pension. Also in the war reigned total unsanitation, where not washing for a couple months was commonplace, and dirt, as everyone knows, is a flea's best friend. Plague doctors were one of the straws the powerful clung to in order to save their asses. They weren't well liked, but every town needed them. That's why our Billy Foster was also under contract to the local mayor. The guy's monthly salary was an outstanding £110. For a second, that's 6.5 tons of beef or £220 for every day. For comparison, a whole year's rent of an elite apartment on the main street of the city cost somewhere in £50. With money, even the lowest case of plague doctors had no problems. The only problem was surviving. Science still can really answer the question of why. With such unsanitary condition and zero medicine, the plague didn't kill the whole fucking planet. The most popular theory is that it built up immunity. Perhaps the plague doctors did their part in disposing of the corpses and maintaining at least some semblance of sanitation. So our Billy Foster was doing a good, albeit dirty, job at great risk to his life. His treatment may have been the reason some of our ancestors survived. If you like this video, put your like down below and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.